There's this quote that says, an unexamined life is a life that's not worth living, right? You've got to examine it. And experience is not the best teacher. Reflected upon experience is. Some people just live the same year over and over and over again. And so they're really old, but they've got no maturity in business and family and relationships and finances because it's just been repeated. I can't express the importance of it enough to really kind of understand where are you currently at right now. Because if you've got a destination, right, you only know how to get there based off the coordinates. And if you don't take a look up, you might be way off and then still believing like you want to get there. But man, no, you've got to readjust some things because now you took some detours. You're not exactly where you need to be.
Right.
That's okay, but let's figure out how to actually get there. So self-awareness is going to be birthed out of this reflection time where you can say, this is where I'm at with my family, my fitness, my franchise, my finances, and my faith.
What did I do really good the first 6 months? What was my biggest accomplishment?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what made me the most happy? Like, what was my happiest moment? What was my greatest time of, relationship that I had in the first 6 months? And then how could I build on those things? Because the goal is to go from glory to glory, from strength to strength, right? Not like mountain to valley.
Right.
Like, that's not necessarily, like, we get it. Life's has peaks and valleys. You don't always need like a crazy testimony to have a good victory. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the A Leveled Up Life podcast. As always, Branamier, Courtney here with Paul McClain, helping you level up your life in all the areas that matter the most to us, and hopefully by now to you, whether it's your faith, your family, your fitness, or your franchise. We're here to help. And let's just say today's going to be a good one. It's a self-reflection day.
Yep.
It's a time to look back. We're halfway through the year. It's hot outside. We both got shorts on.
It is, dude.
We showed up like, dude, the AC better be on in this place
Yeah.
because last week when we filmed, man, we almost passed out.
Yeah.
So the things we do to help our audience, man.
We care about you.
We care about you a
matter.
whole lot. You matter. So let me ask you this question. It's midway through the year, right? It's almost July at the time that you're watching this. How's your New Year's resolutions going for you? You on track still? Maybe, maybe not. Some things going good, some things going bad. Well, let's pause right now and let's do a little self-reflection, mid-year self-reflection, looking back on goals, accomplishments, things we've done right, we've done wrong, and let's set some new goals for the new year.
It's a big deal, dude.
It's a really big deal. I think people don't do it often enough.
No, man, I think it's easy to kind of get to the end of the year and then you look back like, man, I wish I would have tweaked this, adjusted that. But halftime, like, dude, games are won and lost at halftime.
Adjustments.
Right?
Yep.
And so you'll have a team that's like, dude, they got no shot. They ain't gonna be able to make it. Like, the game is over. And then all of a sudden you got this other team, you're like, oh, it's in the bag. Like, statistically even, you go to data.
Yep.
Like, there's never been a comeback with this kind of deficit. And then guess what? Halftime happens.
Yeah.
And they come out, and then the whole game shifts and changes. You see this in sports all the time.
100%.
I remember in 2017, I was at, where was it? It was the conference center in Palm Springs. This is prior to one of my greatest sales I'd ever made, which was getting my wife to agree with getting paint from cheer to soccer. I was like, I got to get her in a sport that just has a ball. I don't care what it is. It could be tennis, crochet, anything. I just need something that's got a ball. And so we were at this last year at this convention center. And one reason why too that you got to get out of cheer is like, dude, they had this on Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah.
Like what,
all the dance comps are on the wrong time.
What are we doing? And so they had this room set up where you could go watch the game for all the, like, it was full. All the guys, the moms were like,
all the cheer dads.
Yeah, all the cheer dads. And dude, it was funny how I witnessed like the greatest emotional swing that I've ever experienced. Like the first half, dude, the Patriots fans were like, dude, celebrating shots, like they were going off. And then the Falcons fans, like, dude, the Falcons fans were going off.
Yeah.
Patriots fans looked depressed. Like they were just like, it's over. All the commentaries at halftime, all the reporters.
28-2 at halftime.
Yeah, they were getting smoked, dude. They're like talking about the stats, just giving confirmation like there's no way they're going to come back. But guess what? Halftime happened. They came out. The game completely flipped. and the Patriots pull up the greatest upset. And really that's our desire today is to give you some practical things regardless of what your first half of the year looked like.
Yeah, it's good.
Like if it wasn't good, man, we want to change the trajectory. So whatever was coming against you, whatever habits or disciplines or things that you didn't pick up or things that you did pick up that led you to where you don't want to be right now, can we tweak and adjust those? Can we be aware of those things and finish the year with victory?
Really good.
And it's a big deal. So let's get into it, man.
So complete opposite of Super Bowl. Last Saturday, Brave, his soccer game, right? We're a U16 that's playing up in the U8 league, right? And so I have all these 5-year-olds. And so we've only won one game all season.
Yeah.
Everyone who plays is way older than us, which is no big deal because I got some studs. I give it a couple years.
Yeah, character builders.
Exactly. So we had a double header Saturday, and we were up at halftime, 4-1. Boys were fired up, dude. I was like, we were going crazy. Long story short, we ended up tying 8-8. So, but we felt like it was a win. We celebrated that thing. And so maybe at halftime you're up right now.
Yeah.
Like maybe your first half of the year is going amazing, and you got some momentum. Well, let's continue that momentum. Let's not let the bad things of life wreck the momentum that you have going on now.
Don't be the Falcons.
Don't be the Falcons. Exactly. Look at all the wins, look at all the good things, look at all the accomplishments, the goals, the things that are going right, and let's add on to that, and let's try to minimize the things that are going wrong. Because the truth is, life is life. Like stuff's gonna happen no matter what. There's some things that are out of your control, but there's a whole lot of things that are in your control.
Yeah.
So for you, man, how's the first half of the year been?
I think it's like, there's some wins and then there's some like, man, I wish I was a little bit further in these different areas, but I just know that it takes intentionality, because what'll happen is if you don't pause. And so like, we'll give you guys some specific steps to take right now. We're going to kind of unpack some things that you'll do in your reflection time. But the first thing is you got to plan it, like plan out like 3, 4, 5 hours, a good amount of time to pause and take a look at it, because that 5 hours might lead to 500 hours or 1,000 hours of more productivity because you spent those hours reflecting. I think it's like, I can't remember who says it, but there's this quote that says an unexamined life is a life that's not worth living, right? You've got to examine it, and experience is not the best teacher. Reflected upon experience is.
Good.
Brand, you said it a couple weeks back. You said, dude, like some people just live the same year over and over and over again, and so they're really old, but they've got no maturity in business and family and relationships and finances because it's just been repeated.
Yep.
And so I think right now when we look at reflection, like block out the time. Like I can't express the importance of it enough to really kind of understand where are you currently at right now. Because if you got a destination, right, you only know how to get there based off the coordinates. And if you don't take a look up, you might be way off and then still believing like you want to get there. But man, no, you've got to readjust some things because now you took some detours. You're not exactly where you need to be.
Right.
That's okay, but let's figure out how to actually get there. So self-awareness is going to be birthed out of this reflection time where you can say, all right, this is where I'm at with my family, right? My fitness, my franchise, my finances, and my faith. And then as you go through that, then we can kind of go from there, right? So reflection is essential.
I think it's really good. I think it's one of the things that I've been doing recently is doing like an audit of those areas.
Yeah.
Right. So what happens is you just go through life, and life just kind of just is just one day after the other. Things just add up, and then over time things just become normal. Like the feeling of how life is just becomes normal, good or bad.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're out of shape, eventually that out of shapeness just feels normal.
Right.
Right. And so I was doing this with Mariah with our financial situation, right? So we're looking at everything, and you spend a certain amount of money every single month, and it just becomes normal until you do an audit of like, hey, what's coming in, what's going out, and then you realize, man, we got 19 subscriptions to things that we don't even use,
Right.
things that the boys have bought on her phone, or just, and like, wow, we're spending $317 on Apple. It's like, what are we buying here, right? And so it's like maybe for you got to really, like you're talking about, sit down and reflect and spend some real time. Like this could be a day or two where you audit every single area of your life and just go, man, where am I falling short? Where am I overspending? Where am I not investing enough? What's being wasted? Where can I invest more? And so the first thing, like you said, it just like sit down and take some time, plan it out. For me, I have to get like things out of my head, right? So it's like if I'm sitting down in the morning, because I'm one of those guys where it's like squirrel, So if I'm at my office, if I'm in my office at home, I typically don't have my phone on me because I know me,
Yeah.
right? I said this before, but like I get distracted easily. Like I'll look for any excuse to stop doing what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm studying, I'll just like, oh, I think that I got a notification, so let me check it, and I have nothing, but I'm already on my phone, so let me go ahead and
Yep.
go through Instagram. And so you got to really spend some quiet time. And I think one thing that happens in the beginning of the year is we set these really really big goals, and you really don't really know you yet. So it's like I want to run a marathon this year, but you've never ran in your whole life. And I think people set goals that are maybe not bad goals, but just maybe like unrealistic for right now because they don't necessarily know
Yeah.
themselves. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
And so it's like, oh, I want to flip 100 houses this year. It's like, great. Have you ever flipped a house? Well, no. It's like, well, why don't you do some self-reflection, figure out who you are and what you need, what you could do to get to that point. So I think, really spending time every single morning asking yourself tough questions like who am I, where am I at, how can I take one step forward, how can I keep the momentum going slightly, not like stretching too far out.
Yeah.
I think is big for me at least. And so for my first half of the year, it's like I'm trying to even think back because I'm not one of the type of guys that writes down a bunch of New Year's resolutions
Yeah.
because I've failed at it so many times within like 7 days. And then I don't want to be
You
the
and me both, man.
I don't want to be the guy that's like preaching to everyone like stick to your goals, right? So I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. Like I don't know, um, but like I just know the type of person I want to be,
Right.
right? It's like, am I being the best dad this year? I feel like I've been intentional about like spending some more time with the boys, right? One of the things that I want to accomplish this year was coach one of my boys' teams again. I didn't do that last year, and
Yeah.
I felt like a void almost,
Right.
um, and so I kind of checked that off my bucket list. Um, there's some like some goals for the church, some like attendance things that we wanted to do, worship night, like all these sort of things that are happening, which is great. But it's like, how can I continue to build on those things
Yeah.
and not try to like just do things just to do them, but do things because this is I know who God's calling me to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah. 100%.
So I don't know. You guys sit down and really reflect. Like, who are you? What are you trying to accomplish, and why are you trying to accomplish that thing?
Yeah.
Like, I think it's a big deal.
And I think even like laying out like your schedule,
Mm-hmm.
like so if you've got like Google Calendar, whatever you use, if it's a paper schedule, but kind of looking at that, right? And
Yeah,
asking yourself like what's been my biggest time wasters so far this year? What's been my
that's good.
best use of time that I've had? Who have I spent too much time with where it didn't really provide much value? Who do I need to spend more time with, right? Some of these questions that will kind of like set you up to get you back on like the fast path to get to where you need to go, right?
Yep.
It's almost like what is that thing called when you go through the
It's the fast
airport?
pass.
No,
Oh yeah, the
what is it called? Where you
it's not an
stand on it?
escalator.
No, you stand on it.
It
Casey
doubles your
Jones?
speed.
Yeah, it makes you go faster, right?
Help us
So
out. Help us out, Kate.
yeah,
Come
what
on and put it in the
you can look
comments.
it
What
up.
is it called?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's definitely not what it's
Flat
called, but
escalator.
that's a great explanation for it. but when you count
You
that
know what
thing,
we're talking about.
yeah, you start moving faster, right? And so I think that's essential to put together the stuff you need to evaluate, right? Like if you're in a game at halftime, you're reflecting, you're going through like certain plays, right? Like, hey,
Yeah.
we're getting way too wide. We need to pitch in the middle. I mean, like you're going through stuff, right? You'll even pull up like the iPad. You'll see the players on the sidelines at halftime. They're going through certain plays so they can actually really get an understanding of what is going on. Not
Yeah.
what we think is going on.
Right.
Like, oh, I feel like I'm doing all right, or I think I'm doing okay. It's
What's
like
actually happening?
what's actually happening.
Yeah.
Because you can't do anything about what you think. If you're off on what actually is happening, you're never going to get there.
Yep.
A travelator.
Travelator.
I like that.
Bet you didn't
I would
know
have
that.
never guessed that, but
Me
I like
either.
yeah, makes sense. But yeah, we got to get you on a travelator to your second half. But I think getting everything set in place, right? Having your schedule out, having your goals that you put in place, come January, your who goals, like who do you want to become? And Brand, that's what you're talking about, which is essential, man. Like
Yeah.
I want to be a great dad. I want to be a dad that's loving and intentional and present and purposeful, right? Like that's who I want to be as a father. And if that was your who goal, then you just kind of go through your schedule and say like, and was I present and purposeful? If you start looking at it, and it's like, oh man, I said at night I wanted to read with the kids, 2 nights out of the week, and you haven't done it, and that's one of mine. Like it was
Yeah.
like 3 times a week, and I've not done it 3 times a week. Or it could be like I want to spend just some quality time with my kids, and that could just be like not where I'm trying to teach them something, because I'm always trying to find the
Right.
lesson and
Right.
stuff.
Right.
and like trying to like make things applicable and feed them and give them value. And sometimes what I realized as I'd done some reflection, at this halftime mark is like I need to just hang out.
Just be dad.
Just hang out. Yeah,
Yeah.
be dad.
Yeah.
Like 45 minutes to an hour of just like hearing them out, not saying much, just enjoying if that's jumping on the trampoline, if that's playing soccer, whatever it is, just actually bonding.
Yeah, it's really good.
Because what I was reminded of as I was reflecting, I think that's a beautiful thing about reflection is a lot of times you'll be reminded of stuff that was kind of there, but it's gotten covered up. And if it's covered up, you can't use it. And if you can't use it, it brings no value. And so like I remember hearing this from I want to say it was Pastor Matthew. He's like, I was like, dude, I got my daughter. I got one that's a teenager. She's in high school now. I got more that are coming behind. Like, how do you really, when you say stuff, if you know it's valuable or they receive it? He's like, well, you got to have a relationship that's really strong and bonded. And so as I was reflecting, it's like, man, I've done a good job, I believe, in like giving them good content, good things to consume, structure and stuff. But I'm like, man, my bonding hasn't been where it needs to be
Yeah, that's good.
to build a relationship. And see, that's only produced in reflection. What would happen is by the end of the year, I would have reflected, but my year is a loss because I didn't build a bond. Now I know, all right, the single biggest thing I can do in that role as a dad, because you guys all have roles: dad, mom, spouse. It could be even being single. That's a role. Like, how can you best serve that season? It could be business. It could be anything, right? But I just think having everything kind of in front of you, so that way you're not reflecting from a point of where you're really not at, right? It's kind of like if the first step is if I want to get to New York and I'm driving, I gotta first put in my maps where I'm at.
Yeah.
If I don't put in where I'm at, like it's gonna tell me all these different ways to get there, and I'm gonna be off. So I just think that it's important. The first lesson is in reflection is put together all the stuff you need, and then I think uncovering what are the lessons learned, what has it taught you, what are you gonna pull from it, what did it teach you, and write those things down. What are the biggest time wasters, the biggest mistakes you've made so far, the greatest failures you've had so far, and really put all those down is probably step one is lessons learned. So, Brandon, what do you think about
I mean,
another point?
that's good. I'm even just thinking about, as my role as like as you're sharing, like, hey, we can give out all these valuable tips and all this good content, but like if you have no relationship with that person, it's kind of like the person standing on the side of the road telling people turn to Christ or burn or turn or you're going to hell. It's like,
Right.
well, you may not be wrong, but like 0% of people are going to receive your message because you have no relationship with them,
Right.
you know. But like that person, in my opinion, has not reflected on his method to getting his message across. Therefore, he's unproductive, right?
Right.
It's a big waste of time. So I think that's what you're saying. It's like,
Yeah.
man, you got to reflect on every area of your life. It's like if you're running a business and you're spending a bunch of money on ads, and that's the thing you're supposed to be doing, and you know money's coming in, money's going out, but you've never like reflected on like, is that ad actually making us money? Is that the thing that's actually bringing us any customers or whatever it is? You could just be wasting everything. And so I think that's really, really good. And something that I'm gonna implement probably even more often, just once or twice a year, is just like the thought audit, the self reflection, the looking back, saying, hey, where am I falling short? What's the destination, and then where am I at in
Yeah.
the destination? Because it's so easy to get off track. Like you could start off really great, like what you're saying. Like I got the destination and I know where I am now moving forward, but like 6 months in, you could be in Alaska,
Yeah.
and you thought you should be traveling through like Texas at this point
Yeah.
because you just gotten so far off, and you're looking up going, why is it so cold? It's like, well, dude, you've been making left turns this whole time, headed north.
Yeah.
So really, really good self-reflection. What's another step?
Well, do I think like what you can't expect what you don't inspect,
Mm-hmm.
and so like when you're
Dang, dude, my dad used to say it to me all the time.
did he?
Oh yeah,
So I mean,
Stephen Covey,
so like, dude,
Seven Habits.
my thought is like once you've inspected it, like okay, let's build a great expectation. And so I think that too often, you can get caught up reading the press clippings of the first half,
Yeah,
and that could be like, so if we look at the Patriots, the Falcons, the Patriots, they didn't do that. They weren't like, there's no way. They weren't
right.
looking at all the reasons why they weren't going to win. And the Falcons, I think they were over celebrating. They were probably like, dude,
We
all the
got him.
data says we got him. It would be really hard
Let's
to mess this
maintain.
up.
Yeah, yeah.
And so they kind of went into it and they set themselves up because of the expectation coming out of that. And so I think that once you've done this, you want to come out of the halftime, time that you block out, and you want to come out with the right expectation and expect, like, man, this is going to be the best half. This half is way more likely to be better than the last half because I've got a half that's taught me some things. I've seen how this team's able to play. I've seen how my distractions come at me. I see what I'm susceptible to give into. I see what pulls me and takes me off of path. So now I'm aware of, like, the enemies, so to speak,
Yeah.
my enemies, because everybody's got them. You know what I mean? I'm like you, dude. I get so distracted, and it's like, dude, I'm trying to, like, pray in the morning every morning. Then I'm like thinking about 17 things, and I'm like, all right, God, hold on, and I'll write down something I got to do
Yeah.
after I'm done praying. And, like, so it's like, I know that, but when I pause and I'm in a deep dive of reflection, that's when it's like, okay, now I know. Now, because I know, I can expect to win. If I know that this guy's only throwing left hooks, and I somehow wasn't able to catch that the first half of the fight because I was so close, it was too close to see. But now I've had an out of body experience to step out and kind of see from a higher point of view. Well, now it's like, dude, I'm definitely going to win because he's only throwing left hooks.
Right.
So now I just got to, duck, and I'm good.
Right.
And I think that's where you've got to convince yourself that, man, you're going to win the second half. I think that expectation is crucial. Don't come into the second half thinking like, well, hopefully I'll win. Or, man, I know the odds are stacked against me, so hopefully I'll be able to pull it out.
Right.
Man, come out confident, believing that whatever you went through, sometimes the greatest, like, or the worst first half will lead to the best second half, because the greater the struggles or adversities or trials, man, the greater the lessons that come with that,
It's really
right?
good.
And so it's like some of my biggest successes were birthed out of, dude, like, a very big failure,
Right.
where it's like, dude, that was a struggle. And I could go to business, I could go to my marriage, I
Yeah.
could go to anything.
I mean, you look at most successful entrepreneurs, most successful people in general, most of them have a story. Most of them have some major setback
Yeah.
that set them up for where they're at now, right?
Right.
And so it's like if you're halfway through the year now, take what you just went through as a setup, as a launching board, as a springboard forward, because every lesson you learn now gives you the opportunity to make adjustments and be that much better, right? It's like we say this like saying, it's really cliche now, but we always say at church, like, the best is yet to come. And it's like, I hear you, but you don't know my situation. Well, it's like, okay, well, if you don't expect the best is yet to come, then I'll tell you it's not. So it's like having the right expectation, having like a vision to move forward. Like, why are
Yeah.
we even going to play the second half if we know we're going to lose? If we just think we're going to lose, you might as well just pack it up now and give them the victory, give the enemy the victory. Just like settle in now and just think nothing good is going to happen. The reality is life doesn't work that way. You have to move forward. You can't
It's
just
good.
call it quits. And so you might as well have an expectation that you're better, like the best is yet to come. Like your latter days are going to be greater than your former days. And so I think expectation has a lot to do with it. Going like, man, I'm not who I was before. I'm not I'm not necessarily all my bad mistakes. I'm going to take all my failures and losses and lessons, and I'm going to use those things to move forward, you
Yeah.
know? And so look at this halftime, right? We're in the locker room. It's the end of June, going into the third quarter. Um, where could you adjust? I think
Good.
that's one of the biggest things that you could look at and go, man, where did I fall short? Uh, Another thing is, where am I crushing it? Like, what did I do that was really good? So maybe one of the things that you could reflect on is like, what did I do really good the first 6 months? What was my biggest accomplishment?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what made me the most happy? Like, what was my happiest moment? What was my greatest time of, relationship that I had in the first 6 months? And then
It's
how
good.
could I build on those things, right? Because the goal is to, uh, go from glory to glory, from strength to strength, right? Not like mountain to valley.
Right.
Like, that's not necessarily, like, we get it. Life's has peaks and valleys, but like, you don't always need like a crazy testimony
Yeah.
to have a good victory. Like, I don't know, we most stories that you hear is like there was some pit that led them to the palace, but like, I pray that my kids never have to go to a pit to get into the palace, right? And I know that's the same for you, and same for like for your kids. Like, you don't necessarily want like big deep dives in order for them to have a revelation of what could be and what
Yeah.
should be, right? And so it's like, hey, look at all the good things happening, and let's build on top of that. And that's how you start creating legacy. That's how it gets passed down to generation to generation. And obviously there's you know dips in there, but let's not let the dips be as big as uh they could be if we weren't aware that they're coming. Does
Yeah,
that make
dude,
sense?
I love that, bro. That's beautiful, man. I think that that's spot on. Like when you're going through it, realize that yes, there's lessons to be learned,
Yeah.
right? There's going to be valleys, and sometimes it's not like a great valley, but there's always a lesson to be learned.
Right.
But let's realize that what we magnify, we're going to multiply. What do you want
100%.
multiplied in your second half,
Right.
right? And so let's look at the accomplishments and the milestones, and we'll put together a worksheet. We'll get this out in the bonus content, but for every area, like what were your accomplishments with your family, your fitness, your franchise,
Yeah.
your finances, and unpacking what that looks like and getting some wins written down and looking at those. So, and what I'll do too, and in the halftime, and I do at the end of the year. At the end of the year, I spend 2 full days going through my calendar, going through everything, and really just taking everything that the year brought. Like I want to plunder the year. I want to get
Yeah.
everything I can to be able to prepare and set up for the best year that's coming. And I'll go through and find photos, Brand. So like I'll look at, if you say, okay, one of my successes was, I was able to spend time with the kids. We went here or what have you. And if you have a picture of it, put that in your notes. So I've got on my iPad from all the way from 2015, every year, all those questions, and those questions we'll get out to you, which is the stuff you're talking about, like greatest milestones, biggest time wasters, all those things. And then below it, I've got photos that show kind of all those
That's
successes and,
good.
and big breakthrough moments, and that could be like me, speaking in front of a big audience that of providing value on how to level up their ability to sell or whatever it might have been that year. But it's all listed, and so I can go back from year to year and take a look at not just the statements but also the photos.
Yeah.
And so as you reflect, I would just suggest you guys pull up your phone, go through the photos of the first half of the year, and the ones that you're like, man, that's really good. That makes me feel great.
Yeah.
That was a big moment. That was something that brought a lot of joy. Um, Put that on your notes, right? You could put in your note, paste it, and create a notes folder. It doesn't have to be like, you don't got to go buy like a reflection book right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Mine's just on my Notability app, and I've done it every single year, and it's made a big difference, as far as just
That's good.
seeing it.
And I think also what happens too is most people think that the losses are much bigger than they actually are, right? And so we typically have like this default setting of the negative things are much bigger and scream louder than the positive things, right? So it's
Yeah,
like you look in culture, something goes wrong, everyone hears about it. Something goes right, no one hears about it.
yeah,
It's because we're attracted to negativity. Like we're attracted to like problems, and like we thrive on drama, right? Just
hmm,
as like a culture. And so we want to see the bad things happening.
yeah,
Something good's happening, like someone's giving back, someone's like paying off people's houses, someone's like feeding the homeless. Like you don't really hear about that. But it's like, oh, someone does something bad or a fight or whatever it is, and it's like, dude, it's all over the news. And the same is true for our life. So
yeah,
you could reflect and go, well, we didn't get that house, or we didn't, our marriage is messed up. But it's like, no, no, no. You had way more wins than you probably did losses. Like you
yeah,
had way more than likely good days, or even if there were good moments or good like whatever, like months or whatever it is. But like look back, and I think that's what you're talking about.
yeah,
It's like you forget sometimes how good life can be.
yeah,
But it's like if you have the pictures, like if you have the proof, the evidence, if you have like the stones that like the monuments that were like we could look back on and go, no, God, like God is good. Like look, boys, we like see that sea right there. Like God, like through Moses delivered us through that Red Sea.
yeah,
Like I could like Joshua, look at the stones, like you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
you could
100%.
look back and go like, no, no, God has been faithful no matter what life looks like today. No matter we got 2 points, the enemy has 28. Like no, look, God's faithful. Like He's gonna get us through because look what's happened in the past. Even if I didn't feel good in that season or that the first 6 months, it's like no, look at all the good times I did have.
Dude, this might be the single biggest thing to help you have a
Yeah,
massive
hundred
year.
percent.
Because the reality is, whatever your state of mind is, if your state of mind is more inclined to look at things optimistically or positively, like you're going to set yourself up to
Hundred
make the
percent.
right moves to be successful. But if you go into the halftime or even by default because you've not
Yeah.
taken a pause and assessed, and you just let the next year half just kind of happen, man, odds are if you're working from a negative state and you see things more in a negative way, you're gonna get that, and you're gonna end the year well below the potential that it could have provided for you.
Yep.
And so I think that is so essential, man, to pause and say, okay, am I focused on, for one, things I can control? Like,
That's
are
good.
you when you, are you focusing typically in the first half on things that are out of your control or within your control? Because if your focus has been on things that are out of your control, you probably missed the ability to go out there and execute with excellence in the areas that you can control. Therefore, you're probably like, man, I wish I would have been a little further, right? And
Yeah.
so the first step is like, what have you had your focus on? What you can control or not? You can control your attitude,
Yep.
the way you see the different things that happen in your life, your activity, what you're doing today, and then also as you move forward, what state of mind are you going to go into the second half? Are you going to be positive? Are you going to be expecting that, man, when things happen, I'm just, even if it's bad, I'm pulling the good out of it
Yeah.
because that's my state of mind. And I think you've got to prime and prepare yourself for that, and that's going to set you up for a massive
Yeah.
win.
You can't always, control what happens to you, but you can sure control how you respond to that
Yeah,
thing. And choosing in advance how you respond to life circumstance is a game changer.
yeah,
Like no matter what life throws at us for the next 6 months, I'm gonna choose to respond, in humility. I'm gonna choose to respond with honor. I'm gonna choose to respond with respect. I'm gonna choose to respond with love. I'm gonna choose to respond with an optimistic outlook. I'm gonna choose to respond like God's gonna work it all together for good. And I said it in advance right now.
right.
So when the enemy does come and attacks, or life throws whatever arrows my way, I'm not shaken, or I'm not falling apart because of it, because I've already predetermined my response to the situation. And I think you're right, man.
That's
If
great.
someone could get that mindset in every area of life, it's like, who's gonna stop that guy?
Nobody, dude. The
You-
pre-decision, man. I
yeah,
love that.
it's huge. It's huge. So
Let me give you a couple
yeah,
questions real quick.
let's knock them out. Let's go.
I'm gonna give the questions that you guys can use in reflection. We'll put this in also the bonus content, but just a couple things like what are the habits or routines that you need to change? Are there strategies that need tweaking? How can you improve your mindset moving forward? What are your expectations for the next 6 months? How do you plan to meet these expectations? What milestones will lead you to measure progress, or will you use to measure progress? What excites you about the next 6 months? Like, can you get excited about something? How will you maintain your energy and enthusiasm? What strategies will you use to keep motivated? I mean, these are all different
Great
reflection
questions.
questions. There's also a great book that has a ton of great questions to just kind of reflect. Is the power of one more? And I'll give you some real quick. It's like, what's the one more thing I can do to show my spouse or partner that I love them? And this is kind of, going into the second half, like there's a lot of things you could probably tweak or adjust. And we can get overwhelmed,
Yeah.
right? Like I've done that where it's like, dude, there's so much. Where do I start? It's like my wife cleaned out. She's like, it's so dirty today. I don't know, like kitchen, like I don't know. I don't even know. I'm disabled. I don't know where to
Say
go.
yes.
You know,
Start there.
but what's the one thing? There's a
That's good.
one biggest thing, right? How can I do one more thing to improve my relationship with my children? Is there one more thing I can do to make my family feel more special? Is there one more thing I can do to show my appreciation to the people I work with? What's the one more way I can adjust my thinking so I can make fewer excuses? What part of this situation can I control right now? How is this happening for me and not to me? What's one more thing I could do to calm myself down today? Is there one more thing I could do to bring myself long term peace? What's one more way I can worry less about what other people think? And see, these are a lot of things that are like setting you up, but also making you aware of the things that'll set you back, right? It's
Yeah.
it's both. How can I implement one more way to worry less about the future? What's one more way I can get more excited about the future? What's one more way I will practice gratitude? So we'll put these questions. There's about 40 of them that are on there, and then also some big topics that you can list, photos, and also some bullet points that will set you up. So like, what's the top time expenditures, the best family moments you've had, the most spiritually significant times of the first half of the year, my most significant relationships, my least significant relationships, my biggest time wasters, greatest mistakes. So we'll list all these guys so that way you could do it. And as we started this, it's like the big thing is you have to block it out. You got
It's
to
really
plan it. But hear my heart on this. Like, guys, this is such a big deal. Like to pause and take some time. An unexamined life is not a life that's worth living. It's a life that's always going to fall short of the potential that God's got for you. And sometimes a quick pause will set you up to go out there and accomplish it.
really good. And just to tie it all back together, going back to the Patriots and Falcons, like they didn't come back in one play.
Yeah.
It was one play after another play after another play, right? And so don't get overwhelmed with the scoreboard. Don't think like it. Well, it's the end of the year is 6 months away. If I don't have this, then I'm a failure. It's like, hey, it's June, July, depending on when you're watching this, right? It's like one play at a time, one good decision at a time, one smart choice at a time,
Yeah.
and then before you know it, we'll be reflecting late December,
Dude, I love
and you
that.
go, look what God has done.
Because you don't even
So
know what doors. Like you don't know
you have
that
no
they're gonna
idea.
fumble.
You
You
have no
don't know
idea.
that the quarterback's gonna throw an interception. You're kind of just judging what you think you need to do.
Right.
You don't even know if you just serve the season with gratitude, love, and joy, that there might be doors that open up that you didn't even open.
Yep.
That somebody else opened for you that you could never perceive right now, or that God puts in place and opens up that you don't see in the moment. You're just worried about how am I gonna throw enough completions. You don't even realize they're gonna throw some picks.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really good. Really good. Hope this helped, guys.
Yeah, let's go out there and make it
6 month reflection.
a big second half. We love you guys. Make sure to share this. There might be somebody that's in need to take a quick pause, like they feel overwhelmed. They're just like, I don't know what to do, and maybe this quick share, they'll watch it and it'll give them exactly what they need to make their next half the best half that they've ever had, and that's our desire for you today. So guys, make it a big week. Stay strong, be steadfast. We love you. Talk to you soon.